Are you listening? This ain't no quiet thing. We're screaming out our lungs. Hey, are you listening? Hey, are you there? Hey, are you listening? Or do you just not care?
Well, hey, are you listening? This is a podcast exploring the past, present, and future of Christian music. My name is Joel. I'm here with my good friend Brandon. We connected over a mutual love of a few artists, but have pretty different taste when it comes to things. You might see that today. I don't know. But we also get to experience some new artists from each other and invite some friends along for the ride. Brandon, what's going on?
You were coughing a lot right before we hit record. And I was like, am I going to have to jump in and do the intro and be like, yeah, my name's Joel. Brandon, and I'm here with Brandon. So I'm glad that you're not joking anymore.
I took a sip of my drink and it did not go down well. And so I'm like, oh no, what's going to happen? But thankfully everything worked out all right. Brandon, we have a friend back with us today. Cameron from Tooth and Nail News is here. What's going on, man?
What's up? I'm back again and excited to talk about this album.
Yes, I can't wait to get into this. I'll be honest with you. This is one that I've just been waiting for the right moment for. And so it just feels like the stars are aligning. And I'm really pumped to have a conversation. So today we're talking about the album Trophies by Luxury. And I can't wait to talk about it. I can't wait, hopefully, for like this episode coming out to cause more people to actually go listen to it and give it a shot. So yeah, I'm looking forward to digging into that in just a little bit. So, but before we do that, let's check the mail.
Check the mail. Check the mail. Who, what, when, how, why? Check the mail.
All right, today's question comes from friend of the show, Charlotte, and it's this. If and when you guys have kids, and what is the thing that you want to share with them or pass down to them? Something that you love musically about music, an artist, an album, a genre, a label. Like, what do you want to pass down to your kids musically?
The obvious answer for me would be Tooth and Nail, but there's a specific album I'm going to pick out.
Okay.
And that is Cities by Anberlin.
Awesome.
There's another reason I'm not going to get into here, but seeing as I am about to have my first kid, this was a great question for me. And she has reacted very well to Anberlin in the womb, so that's been cool. So proud dad moment there, you know?
I love
So,
that.
yeah.
That's really awesome.
What age? Like, is that just like as a newborn, you're like, all right, we're going to listen to this album? Or is it like when they turn like 10?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time. Non-stop is going to be playing in my house.
But what's cool about that for you, though, is from our previous conversation with you, Cameron, your dad passed that love down to you. And so it's like a family thing at this point. You just keep passing it from generation to generation.
Yep. Awesome. I'd love to see it.
I think that's amazing. Brandon?
I think maybe the two that I think of, because I feel like for me, it's going to be like, here's a whole like CD booklet, because it's going to be like when I first started going to youth group, like knowing their new Christian music. And so like my best friend Keith, we had him on a few weeks ago, and he was like, man, I want to find like good Christian music, because all I know is that you either have Christian music or good music. And I remember giving him like 10 different CDs, because I was a big believer in like, well, you have to find your person. But I feel like if I, like right now, I'm kind of thinking like maybe like teenager, because I feel like a 2-year-old's not really going to get Me Without You. I think that the two albums that come to mind is like Brother Sister by Me Without You, because I think that, like, I don't know what my Mount Rushmore of albums are, but I feel like immediately that there's no way that doesn't make it onto there.
Right.
And I think it's just everything about it is just like perfect. And I feel like it'd be so cool to like sit down with someone who also appreciates that, or it helps them or whatever. And then I think the other one that comes to mind is Gable Price and Friends, Jungle in the City. Like I think it was the first album I ever gave a 5-star review on here. And I think that album, it still is just something that like once a week, like I'll listen to. And I feel like the songs still like hit me. And I think it's just, I feel like for y'all, it's the same way. Like when there's a song or an album that you've listened to 100 times, but you're like, man, this still like either gets me excited or it almost brings me to tears. Like when it still gets that emotion, even though you know every lyric, everything that's like gonna be there, you still are like hit by it. And I feel like those are two that like Brother Sister was like kind of this like in college, like starting college, so it impacted me a lot, I think, in like doing that. And I think Gable Price and Friends is something that's just been like a new thing that's hit. And I'm just not realizing I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to hand it over to Joel now.
No, it's good stuff.
Those are great picks.
So I have 2 daughters, 11 and 12, and I feel like I'm actively trying to figure out how to do this with them. And obviously they've been around, I feel like, good music their whole lives because it's kind of been the background of everything, right? That we do. There's always music playing. And so because of that, they do like instinctively love some things. But there are also things that I'll like turn on and play and they're like, Dad, like, what is this? Why are
I
you
don't want to
playing
hear
this?
Zayo.
And so they're just not like super into it. And so it's become this thing where I'm like, I've got to grab onto the right opportunities to get them to enjoy something that's good. And so you have to be strategic about it. So it's like we do movie nights on Friday nights. And so a couple months ago, I picked out the movie A Walk to Remember, and so which is like a Switchfoot soundtrack basically. And Mandy Moore even sings the song Only Hope off their second record on there, and so I played this and they watched the movie and like she finishes singing the song and they're like, oh, that song's so beautiful, and I'm like, okay, it's working. And then,
Funny
like,
you say that.
and then like 2 days later in the car, I'm like playing the second Switchfoot record and that song comes on and they're like, this is the song, Dad, this is the song. And I'm like, yeah, this band did the soundtrack for the movie and blah, 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 blah. And so then all of a sudden they'll like get in the car and they'll be like, can we play some Switchfoot? And I'm like, yeah, we can. And so it's like subtle things. You have to like sneak it in because if you're just like outright about it, they'll be like, oh, Dad. My only, I feel like, other moment of success was with 5 Iron Frenzy with my oldest. And I took the time, we were listening to the Quantity is Job 1 EP. And I took the time to explain to her what the song Dandelions meant before I played it for her. And then I played it. And it was on a ride home from youth group one night. And she was like, oh, this song. I feel like it was like the first time where she like got like the depth of something that can like be in a song. And so, yeah. So that's where I am just because those are the 2 successes that I've had so far. But there hopefully are many more of those moments in the future. So we'll see how it goes.
Maybe I should have brought this up on the last episode, but I don't really remember the moment that it happened, but I said I had a DC Talk phase and stuff, and then I remember going to my dad and being like, I like 1,000 Foot Crush and POD, and he was just like, it's over. The DC Talk phase is over. We're gonna listen to good music now.
That's great. I love it. All right. Well, don't forget, guys, you can reach out to us with your questions or thoughts for the podcast at heyareyoullisteningpod@gmail.com, and we'd love to hear them and love to talk about them on the air. So with that, we are going to play a game.
Let's play, it's time to play a game. Let's play, it's time to play a game.
All right. Well, we are playing a game of 20 questions. Christian Music 20 questions with you guys. I'm pretty excited about this, digging into it with you. I finally get to pick something that maybe is a little more obscure than some of the other things because we've got a curator on the podcast. So I'm pretty pumped to dig into this today. But basically how this works is I give you guys 20 questions and you get to ask me any yes or no questions and work your way down to see if you can figure out what album is in my head. And so I'm just pulling up some info here to make sure I don't mess anything up. And I've got it right. And yeah, let's take it away. Ask away.
Was it released before 2000?
Brandon, this is the first time you haven't asked a different question as your first question. Yes, this album was released before 2000.
Okay.
I gotta think of a good question, man.
I about to say, if you don't step in, I'm going to start asking really nonsensical ones. So.
Is this rock or rock adjacent?
Yes.
Okay.
Was it released through Tooth and Nail?
Yes.
That only narrows it down to a couple of thousand now.
No, that's a couple of thousand. Actually, Cameron may know how many Tooth and Nail releases there have been. I don't know.
No, not off the top of my head. I have to pull my catalog up. You can keep going with questions. I don't have a good one yet.
Is it? Is it a solo artist?
No. I was gonna the answer's no.
Is
but
this band still actively making music?
Good question.
yes.
Okay. Are they still a part of Tooth and Nail? Or maybe?
Technically, the answer I think is no.
Okay. I have a hunch, but I don't want to. I don't even know how many questions we're at yet.
I think you guys have asked 6 questions.
Okay.
Is there a number in the band?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's 7.
Okay.
I like how I immediately think, oh, there's only one band, whereas Cameron's probably like, oh no, there's a few
I'm about
bands
to
that
pull
have
my
numbers.
catalog up right now. I'm going to check this.
Is this podcast named after the band?
Yes.
Okay.
That's 8.
You know what's really sad, Joel, is that I don't know if I know any of the names of that.
That
I
is
got
really
you covered
sad,
there.
Brandon.
Is the album cover gold?
No.
If you would have said
just gotta
yes, I
start
was going to
listing
have
colors.
a second.
No. That doesn't totally narrow it down.
No.
Is the, you could tell me if this is a fair question or not. Is the album named after a color?
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I think that puts us down to 2 or 3. Maybe not. There's more releases than I remember. That dude was just pumping out music in the 90s.
Yeah. Although I think you're right. There weren't that many pre-2000.
Is the album primarily red on the cover?
No.
Oh. I feel like right now I'm playing putt-putt and I'm right there by the hole and I keep trying to keep on circling the drink.
Does the cover feature, the front of the cover feature the Tooth and Nail logo?
Yes.
Okay,
That's
I can
12.
safely put my guess in then, I think.
I'm going to hand this
Let me
over to
double-
Cameron.
All
You may
right.
just go ahead for it.
Go for
Is
it.
this the Fashion Focus by Starflyer?
Yes, it is. Good
Okay.
job. That's 13
I had to
questions.
double check because there's like an EP I think that had the thing on it, but it does not.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool album cover.
Yeah.
But also this one's up there for me in the Starflower catalog. It's one of my favorites. So yeah, good job, guys. You got there. I am impressed. Only 13 questions. So
That's the most stressed I've been all day.
good to know. I'm thankful that we can cause that to happen here on Hey, Are You Listening? All right.
Joel, real quick,
Yeah.
fast. Is it an EP they released? Wasn't there one with like a truck on it? Or am I imagining that?
There is one with a truck on it. That is
Can't Stop Eating, is that what
yep,
it's called?
Can't Stop Eating EP. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That was in the early 2000s, I think.
Fashion Focus is a full length. Although
I see it now.
before they released it, they did put out a Fell in Love at 22 EP.
Yep, that's the EP I was thinking of.
Yeah. And that song went on to be on Fashion Focus, but it was kind of like a teaser, I think, for the record to
Yeah.
put out an EP first. So great EP, great song, great record. So all right, let's talk about what we've been listening to lately. What's something you guys have been spending time with?
I can go first. For me, there's two that stand out. It's two that you've mentioned. First is Idle Threat. So I've been like diving into them a little bit, and then Strings and Heart. And
Yeah.
it was funny because you mentioned them, and then like it didn't click like till afterwards that like, oh, that's who I was listening to.
Yeah.
And I think they just showed up on my kind of like algorithm popped up, and I just love whenever you find someone who's like, oh, this is different. And so I've really enjoyed getting to dive into to them, and Jordan's even enjoyed like getting to listen to them. So
I don't think I realized that it was three brothers, but it is,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
I saw them live this past summer at a
Awesome.
festival here in Ohio, and killer show. Like this stage, it was one of the side ones.
Uh-huh.
There had been just like a moderate amount of people there, and then they came on. The stage was crowded. Well, my wife and I were sitting there watching. We're like, they should be on the main stage. Well, sure enough, they got announced for the festival this year, and they're playing the main stage. I'm
Yeah.
like, good for them. That's awesome.
That's really
So-
cool. That's really cool. It's just great to see like new Christian indie bands, just because there's not much of that out there. So I love that.
I have been listening to the album "How to Start a Fire" by Further Seems Forever.
Come
that
on.
one's been on my rotation recently, and then "Singularity" by May. I love
Yeah.
both those albums a lot.
Two great records. Follow-up question: what's your favorite Further record, and what's your favorite May record?
Both of those.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, "How to Start a Fire." I love the Jason Gleason Further Seems Forever
Yeah.
stuff, and then I love "Singularity." I think it's a cool album.
I my band, we played. We were at, I think it was Purple Door Fest. I'm trying to remember where. I think it was Jason Gleason's first show with Further, and I got to see that, and then they came through our hometown, and we got to play with them not too long after he joined the band. I don't think that How to Start a Fire was out yet at that point, but they were playing some of the songs and doing a lot of The Moon Is Down too. So
That's cool.
yeah, love.
He
that
got to
band.
perform with him again at Furnace Fest, didn't he? A
Oh,
couple
yeah,
years
yeah.
back.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
I saw him both times. Saw him twice, like at a pre-show a year and a half ago, and then at a regular
Yeah.
show.
Oh, that's cool.
Back from there. So yeah, it's really awesome. For me, guys, I'm struggling to like find new stuff this year so far, and so there's not much that I can consider new. I'll give a throw out to kind of what would be like a classic answer for a lot of people. There's a new U2 EP, and so it didn't automatically appear in my iTunes like some of their previous stuff. But Days of Ash EP, it seems like pretty quickly put together little EP because it's very of the times and speaking to what's kind of going on in our country. But it's pretty good. And so I've enjoyed the little bit that I get to listen to, and I'm always going to count U2 as Christian music. So there we go. Yeah, we'll see. All right. Well, we're going to get into what we're here to talk about today, and that is the album Trophies by the band Luxury. All right, so just a little bit of information about this record, and then we can kind of talk about maybe some things in the background too. But the album Trophies by the band Luxury was officially released on June 14th, 2019, I think several years after it was recorded, following a limited initial release and crowdfunding campaign in 2014. It was recorded at Glow in the Dark Studios in Atlanta, Georgia. Produced and engineered by Matt Goldman. We've got 10 tracks. This album is characterized by angular guitar work reminiscent of early post-punk, balanced by lush melodic arrangements featuring piano and strings. Yes, so let's talk a little bit about our history with Luxury, or maybe this record. Cameron, how did this come across your ears?
I honestly hadn't done much with Luxury. Like, obviously I was not alive when they were
Right.
in their prime. I think they quit the year I was born. So but as I was getting into doing Tooth and Nail stuff, even before I started the page, started listening to their stuff. I was like, man, this is good. There was just something. I love the energy of it, all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think they're a really cool band. They do really unique stuff, and I'm all about finding super unique artists, especially being kind of a super underrated band too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I think the first record that I ever listened to by Luxury, I probably heard some of the early stuff on like samplers and stuff from Tooth and Nail. But I don't think it grabbed my attention until somehow I picked up their third record, their self-titled record, Luxury, on that was on Bulletproof Records, and immediately, just like, this is one of the best albums that I've ever heard. Got super drawn into it, and really enjoyed it, and that drove me like back to their catalog, sorry, and getting to know all of their stuff. And it's fun too, because that I might have heard that record for the first time because my band Bellador that I was in, we recorded with Goldman at Glow in the Dark in Atlanta.
Goldman is awesome.
Yeah. And so I think that he probably played it for us, and that's maybe what like really drew me into it. And then I went and picked it up. Man, yeah, I fell in love with that album. And then it's kind of like interesting because they kind of disappeared a little bit after that. I somehow missed their next record, Health and Sport, because I think it was just self-released, and it never came across my radar. And the next thing that I saw from them was, I think in 2014, they had this crowdfunding campaign for the Parallel Love documentary and Trophies, this album. And I'm like, oh, Luxury, yes. And so I kickstarted or whatever back then, crowdfunded it. And so I was able to like get the album like downloadable with like way before it was actually finally released in 2019. But immediately just like fell in love with this record. So Brandon, what's your history?
None. No, whenever you'd reached out about like Cameron wanting to come on, you'd given me a list of kind of like, oh yeah, here's what he's like interested in, and this was one of the ones that I had never heard of, and honestly, I was telling someone earlier, I feel like sometimes it's more exciting to dive into something you've never heard versus talking about something that you love. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like almost like sometimes for me, it's a challenge to sit down. Like if we were to sit down and talk about like a Toby Mac album from like my childhood that impacted me, I
Right.
feel like it's almost more of a struggle. But at the same time, and I think like this, it's kind of going to show like in the review, I think that what I learned was this is a band that the more you listen to, the more you're going to enjoy it. And so I think that's pretty cool. It's good and bad, is that I feel like it's cool when you have like, you know, like for y'all, it's, man, this is an album that we love. Let's dive into it. And then for me, it's like, here's someone who's never listened to this. But I think also it doesn't do it justice, because I feel like, like before recording, I was saying that if you talk to me 5 months from now, there's a good chance I would be on the like, oh man, like I understand what he's saying with this and that. And so yeah, so I think it's pretty interesting to kind of see how it matches up with y'all's reviews off of someone who like knows the band and knows like, hey, here's what he believes, versus me being like, I don't know what he's trying to say or whatever.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I don't always know what he's trying to say either. I think that he's cryptic on purpose in a lot of ways. It's funny. I just rewatched this week in preparation for this, the documentary Parallel Love, just to be ready to talk through it. And what I think's hilarious about it is like people have all these cryptic questions about it, and at some points he's like, I mean, that's not what I was trying to say. I don't. It's just this, like this really plain thing.
Yeah.
But then sometimes it's like super complex, and the lyrics are gorgeous and beautiful. But sometimes it is hard to kind of get to the meaning, behind them. But I think that's what good writing does.
Yeah,
is
definitely.
it creates a puzzle that you kind of have to put together to get there. And so it's one of the things that I love about this band.
Yeah. He's got a document going through like his thoughts behind each of the lyrics for the album. And I was like, it's been a while, but I remember going through, I'm like, I'm going to read this. I'm going to understand these songs more. And there was a couple I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. There's a few I'm still like, yep, this explained nothing. I still do not understand what the song is entirely about.
I need to find that. I haven't read that.
I'll have to see if I can find it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cool read.
Yeah, it's cool. We haven't talked at all either about, these guys are involved in so many different music projects. And Lee, their lead singer, has done some incredible solo work too.
Yeah.
I love, he has one EP that he put out called The Majesty of the Flesh, which I think is like, that song is in my purview like one of the greatest songs ever written. And it's just beautiful and awesome. And but anyways, such a good band. So all right, any other opening thoughts you guys have before we kind of get into track by track?
I'm just excited.
Cool. All right, well, let's dig into it, and we'll start with track 1, Ginsberg reading Howl. You can tell already that from the track title that there's a little pretentiousness about luxury songwriting. It fits the name luxury.
Yes.
I can go first. I really like the fade in. Like I feel like if I was at a concert and I heard this start like playing, like I would, we were talking about like being like at a festival. I feel like if I was over here getting like a hot dog and I started hearing this play, I'd be like, oh, let me go see what's happening over here. And like I feel like I say it every time, but I feel like it is worth repeating that like I think that when you don't know a band, there are albums I've picked up before where I start playing it and it's like, I'm going to search. Or I was thinking about an album last night that I was like, it was like track 7, 10, and like 11 that I loved. And I was like, man, like I never listened to the other ones because it was always just, I know the ones I like, so I'm going to skip above them. And I think that it's always a good sign when you've never listened to something and you're not like, let me go to like the popular song, or Joel mentioned this one's a great song, so I'm gonna skip these other ones that aren't as good. So yeah, it definitely was, I want to sit down and listen to this, not what have I gotten myself into. So I feel like that's always a good good mark of a song.
We'll go with that. That's good. Cameron, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, like this is a hard album. Like I have a hard time listening to just one or two songs. I gotta listen to the whole album. But to know Ginsberg reading Howl, it's one of my favorites off the album. I think it's a great opening track, and I love the lyrics of the song, and I just love, it's such a cool way to open an album because it really showcases a lot of what the band can do.
Yeah.
And it's cool to have that fast-paced song because there's a lot of moments on this album that are really slow. They're just as great, but they're really slow, and it's the cool contrast of that.
Yeah, I think I could say so many things about this, but you get a picture of who the band is in so many different ways on this song. I love that you have this like just it's not even really the song like intro that's fading into it, but the song really begins with the words and that opening line, and then you like lock into the song. And I just feel like that's such a like people don't do that really. Like we have to build these musical intros and then we start singing down the road. But I love how the album really begins with like lyrics, you know, it like kicks into it with vocals. And so I think it's cool for sure. I do think that you do. I mentioned this a second ago, but you get a sense of like his lyric writing on this, and anyone who's like quoting, talking about Ginsberg, reading Howl, like you can tell there's like this like I said the word pretentiousness to it, but it reminds me a little bit of like the band Vampire Weekend, where you're just like, okay, like the lyrics are like they're up here in a lot of ways, and they're complex and they're complicated, and you've got to figure out what's going on, but they're so good and they're so well written, and you get a showcase of the drums, and oh my goodness, the drumming on this record is just
it's crazy, especially the song specifically. The drums are crazy good.
It's insane. I don't know how he does what he does and stays in it. But he's
been consistent on each record too, is how good he is.
Yeah, one of my favorite drummers for sure. And then you also, I could say so many things. You get a sense of the guitars. This is a guitar record, and the guitars on this album are just unbelievable and so thoughtful, and the parts are so good, and all that. And then you get to hear Lee Bozeman sing, and then I'm just like lost in his voice. I'm going to repeat myself with all these things as we go through this record because I just love them. But I agree with you guys. This is a great first track.
Yeah. So next up, we move into Parallel Love. What were your thoughts on that one, Cameron?
You know, I'll be honest. Of all the songs, it's probably my least favorite, which I know it's usually the popular pick off the album. Not that it's bad. Like, I love this song.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get into it as much as the other ones. Like, but it's a very driving track. It keeps taking you, but it does a good job of going from the fast pace of Ginsberg and how, and it slows down just enough that it doesn't feel like when you get into the next track, you're like, whoa, we just slowed way down. We're on a whole different vibe. Like, it's a really good intermediate track.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Parallel Love. I think the first time I ever heard it probably was watching the documentary, and I'm just like, what in the world is that song? Like, I want this album. The guitar, like the guitars are so heavy on this. And it's something that Luxury does, which is crazy because they're not like a heavy band, but yet they do this guitar work. Like this, there's just this play between these like heavy, big, thick guitars, and then just like Lee's voice, which is such an interesting interplay that you just don't get from a lot of bands. And that's one of the things that I love so much about them. But I love the guitar line on Parallel Love. I love the steadiness of the drum beat, that the drums aren't as chaotic on this one, but they're like locked into this really cool rhythm that just kind of keep you going. Also, it's a love song, which is really fun. And yeah, I think the guitars are majestic. They end up doing all this stuff. It reminds me in some ways of like a Further Seems Forever record, where you're like, is that a guitar or is it like a violin? Like you don't know, because
there's a lot of layers going on.
It's like symphonic kind of. Yeah.
So for me, I mentioned this to Joel that this track, it started this kind of trend where it was like the vocals were almost like non-existent. So you'd have like the music was like a do do do, and the lyrics were kind of like this. And it seemed like he was like standing 5 feet away from the microphone, and it was weird because like I tried it on my headphones and it did it, and then I tried it on this like Bluetooth speaker I had, it did it, and then I tried it on my laptop and it finally was like balanced. But I was telling Joel it was just really like weird because I've never had like an album. You know, like I'm used to, like if I just listen on my phone, it's 5 years old, so the speakers aren't going to be as good. But I found it just like interesting that it was doing that.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah,
but-
I never noticed that, Brandon, what you're saying about this record, but I will say that like I grew up in like a musical world where like vocals are a little more buried than mainstream.
Yeah.
And that's just like a norm thing for independent music, especially like
Yeah.
post punk and something like this and or emo. Like vocals are gonna be a lot more buried than they are in like more mainstream music.
Yeah.
And so it never felt that way to me. I did notice as I was listening to it on my in my car actually. I'm like, I don't know if Brandon's gonna like the production on this record. Like, I think it might be like a little rough for him. But it is exactly what they wanted to make.
Yeah.
And it's intentional. And I think that you have to understand, like, if you go back and listen to their earlier records, if you don't like the production on this one, you're going to be like, what in the world is happening? But they're coming out of a post-punk music scene of just chaos and like, and it's not supposed to be polished. It's
Yeah.
supposed to feel real and raw
Yeah.
and live almost. And they're trying to capture like a live performance in a crummy club, like
Yeah.
on a record. And so it's supposed to feel that way. And if it didn't, like they would lose credibility in their scene because it's not supposed to be super
Yeah.
polished. And so a record like this, actually Trophies is a super polished record for a band like Luxury. And so I would probably argue that their newer record is even more polished. So I think they keep stepping into more and more production.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was surprised, honestly, listening to this record. I'm like, they took a big step up in production, but I also understand how if you don't like have history with it, that it might feel a little raw.
And I think once I listened to it, like with my laptop speakers, this one I ran out of time to go back and listen to this. So all the other ones I was able to go back and listen to it, but it was just something like interesting because, like I said, when you don't know the band, it's like, you know, you're sitting there thinking, is it just my headphones are messed up, or is it that's what the band, you know, is going for?
Yeah.
And but it was cool because like you got to focus more on the music. So I did feel like that was cool. And, you know, it made me think that a lot of times, like, I'll be the first to admit that for me, if I'm like putting the scales of a CD, I'm going to put a lot more stock into lyrics than the music.
Yeah.
And, but I think sometimes it's like you don't appreciate music. So like whenever if it was my headphones or whatever were messing up, it was cool to kind of get to, and I think even as the album went on, I had more of an appreciation for the music because, you know, it was like, I can't hear the lyrics, but then it was like, oh, those drums are pretty cool. And that's good. The guitar is cool. And so I feel like it was cool to kind of like, I guess it's like, what is that, like Bob Ross thing about like the happy accidents or something?
Right.
So it's like it was a good accident that it kind of allowed me to look more into the music side of it.
Were you reading through the lyrics as you were listening to it?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I had to.
That helps a little bit.
It was an album that I think it's like the 5 Iron Frenzy album. Like I got to the point where I was like, this is not a listen in the car and pick up on it.
Yeah.
It was let me sit down and read the lyrics and see what's going on with it. And so, but yeah, I mentioned that later on in one of the little things.
Yeah.
But,
I think if you go back and listen to this song on your computer, I would consider this to be like the single off the record.
Yeah, I would say
It's
so.
probably the most like most friendly for like an outsider to like listen to, and so I think you probably like enjoy it for sure. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned the word intentional. I think that's just a very good way to describe the album. It's like everything feels very intentional.
Yeah.
Like even the polishedness of it is very intentional. Like if you go back and listen to Amazing and Thank You, that sounds, you know, it's a cool album, but it sounds like a band that's trying to find their footing and get their sound and make their place in the scene. Then you listen to this that came out a decade after they did anything, and it feels very mature. And it feels like this is 10 years of a band just relaxing in their lives and figuring themselves out and coming back together, and this is who they are.
yeah.
Yeah. I love that. All right, track 3, trophies. Takes a turn, Cameron, as you mentioned kind of
Yes.
earlier for the record. What were your thoughts on this one?
I love the contrast of like there's a few songs in this album that are generally a lot slower.
Yeah.
And there's that cool contrast between these super fast paced songs and then going into the slower ones. But there's a way that, you know, you listen to an album and there's a slow song on it, you're like, yeah, this feels out of place, but everything feels very cohesive here. And I think Trophies just is a really cool slow down before we get into another more picked up pace song. Like again, like lyrics, I can't not bring up lyrics on every song because I think all the lyrics are really cool, but everything just plays together so well.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this is just to kind of jump off your lyrics thing. Like this has some of my favorite lyrics on the record. There's a point in verse 2 where he says, "There's no way to undo what you did. There's no way to unlive what you lived. There's just consequence. There's always a glove that fits." It's such good writing, and yeah, that stands out to me in a big way on this song. And I think this gives gives a place for Lee's vocals to shine. And I love the atmosphere around it. As you get kind of, when you get to this point halfway through verse 2, where the music just gets a little like chaotically lush and beautiful. And I love that section of the song. And the bass playing is just unbelievable too. So yeah.
That's what I had put down. There's this like really subtle like build up, and I feel like it was cool. I wrote down that it felt like I was listening to a like a jam session. Like it seemed like they're just kind of like playing stuff, and it's like, hey, let me throw out and like see. And I really like the like simplicity of that. And you know, going back when you don't know a band, you're kind of like, okay, is this a band that can do everything? Because like there's some like heavier bands that you listen to and you're like, okay, the like 7 heavy tracks on here are good, but the 3 like slower ones, it's a skip track. And I feel like it's cool. It's always like, I'm curious when you hear, okay, this is gonna be slower. It's like, okay, like, and I think that's where you shine, is when you're a band where it's not just how loud we can be, but it's like you said, like when you're intentional and you like are putting in effort to the lyrics and all. I feel like that helps because it doesn't feel like we have to put in something quiet.
Right.
It's okay, no, we need to put something in like quiet here. So I think it was a pretty cool kind of like dip, but you know, it's still having substance there.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
next up is hold on a second. I made the mistake of I didn't want to write out the whole name of this song.
It is a long song
So
title.
the next one, let me get a deep breath. Don't feel bad if you don't feel better right away. Joel, did this song make you feel better or?
Definitely. I wrote down the name of the song is so good. Obviously, it's just the chorus, basically. I love the lyric. Don't feel bad if you don't feel better right away. Like, it's a great line. And so it's cool that they pulled it for the song title, even though it's long. There's really cool guitars that happen after the second chorus. I wouldn't say this is like my favorite track on the record, but I do love, I love a song that starts out in the chorus. And so it's cool that this song does that, which I think it sets a good tone for like where the song's going.
How about you, Cameron?
Cool song. I love long title songs. Something about that. I love where that's FM Static had the one album where like every song had, like 10 words in the title. Like I love that stuff. No, it's a good song. It's one of those ones that, like I mentioned earlier, like you listen to it and you try to read the lyrics and you try to read what he said about it. It's like I still don't entirely get this song. Like it's very cryptic and it's that simple. Just don't feel bad if you don't feel better right away. And that is like what drives the song. I mean, I guess that's the meaning, right? But like this is one of my favorites lyrically. That it's just very cryptic in that sense.
Yeah. I enjoy like the gosh, what do you call it? Like kind of like the lighter vocals that like appear in it.
Yeah.
And then I'm glad you guys mentioned the song like titles, because like I think it's just like the little things. Like I've said it before, like when I used to, back in the day when we used to buy our physical CDs, like I loved whenever there was like those little like inserts and all. And even when I get vinyl, like to be honest, if I order vinyl and all I have is like the sleeve and the vinyl, it's kind of a letdown, because I
Yep.
love whenever they include like because I think even you correct me if I'm wrong on this, Cameron, but I think like Family Force 5 came with like a lyric like sheet. And like Be Without You's usually will throw in stuff. And I think just little stuff like even just like naming a song, it's like it'd be easier just to say like Feel Better or something. But I think it's cool when it's like someone is thinking, how do I describe this? And it's like you almost can picture them sitting back in the chair and thinking, what is the title of this? And I think it's just like it's cool getting to notice those things without knowing, like, you know, because I might say that and you guys are like, well, yeah, Brandon, of course, you know, blah blah blah, he does all that stuff, you know. For me it's like, you know, either you can think, who's this weirdo naming these weird songs, or you can think, oh, that's cool. And I fall in the category of, I think that's cool.
I would agree with you. I think it's cool.
Yep.
So, all right, track 5 is The War on Women. Brandon, tell us about your thoughts on The War on Women.
Well, so this one, at first, I thought it was just a long song, and I did, because it kind of like bleeds in, and so like I'm driving in the car listening to it, and I'm thinking like, man, this is like a really long song. And then I look down and I'm like, oh no, we're 2 minutes into like a new song. So I thought that was interesting, kind of like the bleed in. I really like the way that it was tackled, and I think like this was one that I kind of started like diving into the lyrics, because it was like, what, like when I first heard it, it's kind of like I don't know what he's saying or whatever. And once I got home and like dove into the lyrics, I was like, oh, that's cool. This isn't just like a, like, what is he saying? It's like, oh, this is what he is saying. And I think it's cool, because I think just tough topics like this, it can lead to like either being like really cheesy, or just going like too far and kind of alienating people with like, you know, I don't know, being angry or calling people out or whatever. And so I always appreciate when someone can take something that is like a tougher topic and they can present it in a way that's like, I don't know, like clear and kind of easy to like understand and see where they're coming from. So I think that's cool whenever a band isn't afraid to tackle that, but also they take the time to like state what they're trying to say.
It's a really good point, because we've certainly in the Christian music industry heard like cheesy examples of dealing with topics like this. Like DC Talk, for instance, our DC Talk days that had a song back in the day called I Don't Want Your Sex. Like that's probably a cheesy way to handle a topic like this. And this, I feel like, is such a thoughtful way to kind of dig into it that, I mean, it's a song about pornography. Like there was a war on women. And I love the line, I was too young to know I was in it. That as young men, we get caught up in our feelings and our emotions and our lust, and we don't realize like the consequence that comes from things like this, and the way that it causes us to think about women or people in our lives. And man, I think this is such a powerful song, and just lyrically. But also I love it. It's one of my favorite songs on the record. The guitars are so heavy, like in the beginning. I just think it's such a good track. Cameron, what do you think about this one?
100% agree. Like I love this song. This is not my favorite, but it used to be.
Yeah.
It's I think this is a good song if you wanted to show somebody like how Lee writes lyrics, this is the song.
Yeah.
Like it's a very well-meaning, everything's purposeful. Everything is cryptic, but it still makes sense. Like, I think looking at their early lyrics, especially like the stuff on Amazing and Thank You, are very edgy and taboo almost.
Yeah.
But it's almost like it's edgy to be, yeah, we're in the Christian scene, so we're going to push it a little bit.
Right.
It doesn't feel as like purposeful. Not that they weren't purposeful, they're great songs. I love them.
Yeah.
But it feels a little more like, let's push the envelope a bit.
Right.
Whereas these feel like this is intentional. This is for the song. I think it shows another level of that maturity.
Yeah. It's one of the things we talked about before we hopped on the podcast, I think. But if you go and watch the documentary Parallel Love, you get kind of the story of the band. And so a big part of their story is they put out their first record and were really rising in kind of notoriety in the scene and were pretty popular. They had played Cornerstone the year before, got signed by Tooth and Nail, put out their first record, and then went back to their second year of playing Cornerstone and had a huge crowd. There was a ton of energy. The show went great. Apparently, I wish I could have seen it. Apparently, it was just like a legendary show.
Yep.
And but on the way back from that, they ended up in a huge car crash that almost killed a couple of them. Lee especially almost died, and that kind of like reshaped who they were in a lot of ways. And we were talking about beforehand how they became a band that was like, let's be cryptic and push the envelope just to kind of do it and see if it kind of gains us something, to a band that still stayed cryptic, but it was a lot more purposeful and intentional. And it's neat to see. I mean, now like the story behind the story is that, you know, 3, maybe 4 of these guys now are Orthodox priests.
3 of them. Yep.
Yeah, and so they're deeply ingrained in their faith in Jesus, and so it took like that car crash and going through incredible suffering together to like draw them in closer to like purpose and what God had for them. And so it's a fascinating story. I highly encourage anybody to go and check out the documentary, so you can get kind of a good background on who they are as an artist. So,
Cameron, what are your thoughts on "You Must Change Your Life"?
I love the rhythm and the drive this song has. I think it's some of Lee's best. I don't know. I don't want to say it's some of his best vocal performance and delivery, because I think every song really showcases something different for him. But I really like his delivery on this song. It's just a very simple song lyrically, and I don't want to keep going back to lyrics each time, but I think he just kills it on this album with the lyrics. And I think it's a really cool like look into his life leading up to getting back into doing stuff with Electric again. And the guitars here are really cool. And I know Joel mentioned earlier the bass on, I think it was Trophies, but the bass on this whole album is just really, really good. This song specifically too.
it's one thing about this band that like everybody that is in this band is so gifted at their craft, and somehow the chaos of it all works together. And it's beautiful. Yeah. Brandon, what'd you think?
Yeah, I really like the vocals on this one. I feel like it's shown through pretty well. I feel like this probably at this point, I think this is the first track that kind of was like there was nothing that like stood out as like, oh, this is like really good. So I think it kind of like plateaus a little bit with this song, like for me. That's why I was really excited that Cameron got to go first. That way I didn't jump in with being like, oh man, like this song plateaus. And it's like, this is the greatest song he ever produced. And it's like, oh, let me take that back.
I feel like the song is a story, a little bit of Lee's life, because he talks about 1987 and then jumping forward to 1997. And so you basically have pre-car crash Lee to post-car crash Lee. And obviously kid to like adult who's walked through and been through some tough things. And so I think that a lot of this like has to do with kind of the turning point of his life, maybe him becoming a priest. Maybe he's talking about the car crash, but I love the lyric. It takes some time to figure out what you think when you always believe in everything. Again, just the lyrics on this record are so good. And this is another great example of the drums on this song. They're just crazy, and I love every minute of it. And watching Glenn play, when I got to see them live, watching him play live was just so entertaining. He's such an incredible drummer. Yeah, it's a great one. All right, track number 7 is Museums in Decline. Cameron, what are your thoughts on this one?
Cool song. This is not, I didn't have it listed as one of my favorites, but I do really like this one. I love the imagery with the lyrics on this one. Because, like, it's one of these ones you can listen to and you can just picture exactly what he's saying. Like, I always love when the lyricist can just get you right into that spot where you can imagine everything he's saying. It's very cool. But this is one I liked reading his kind of thoughts on the song, what got him to the lyrics. He's just got some cool thoughts on that, which I won't dig into that because he writes a lot about each of these songs.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool song. I hate to just keep going back to lyrics, but I love the lyrics on this album, how he portrays everything really well.
Yeah, I think for me, this was like one that I don't know if I have like a favorite song, because I feel like this stands out. I'm trying to think if another one stands out, but I just really enjoyed getting to like dive into like, oh, what does he mean by this and that. And I feel like if I made a list of like my favorite artists, I feel like 8 of the top 10 would be bands that like you have to sit down and be like, what do they mean by that? And you have to dig into where it's like, oh, he's referencing this book from like 1935, or like, oh, he's referencing like he released a song, 20 years ago that he's, like I love that stuff. And so with this one, I love getting to like dive in and be like, yeah, like what's the, and I mean, sometimes you find out that he's just naming a random street. But then other times you find out like, oh, this is a street that this thing happened, so I really love just diving into it. And it made me think that a couple weeks ago, I told my mom, she's like, I don't know a lot of the music y'all listen to on there. And I'm like, I'm the same way. I'm like, but you should start listening to it. And she's like, okay. But she is not the person. Like back in the day, I would be like, she's like, I don't want to have to do like research on a song.
Right.
She's like, I just want to put it in and get like, okay, he's singing about his kid, not like, oh,
Right.
he's singing about a child from the 1700s, or whatever. And so I did start listening to this, and I was like, I feel like I need to apologize and be like, hey, I don't know if you want to skip this week or not, because there's like homework with this album.
I love stuff like that too. I love being able to just dig into an album. It's going back to like getting a physical release and pulling it out and reading all the lyrics and whatever. Like one of my favorite bands used to be Silent Planet, and they would always have footnotes in the lyrics that are references to Bible verses or books he's reading or events going. And it's always cool. I want to do research. I want to dig into what this artist is really passionate about.
Yeah, I think I love that this one starts off with an acoustic guitar strumming, because it's such a different texture for the record. And then it kind of kicks in, but it's got a different sense of rhythm than a lot of the rest of the album. And I could see where you could make an argument that some of this feels a little samey. But I actually think that the songs are all pretty unique. They just fall into a similar like sonic category. But I love how different this one feels. I love the guitar when he sings the line, there's really nothing there at all. Just like the drop kind of thing that they do there. And the question of, it's just kind of like, is there more to life? Yeah, I really like Museums in Decline. I think it's cool.
Good.
That line, the funk claps every time, but it's all right. I hear there's more to life is reference to latest and greatest.
Yeah.
Life's more than being sexy. Yep.
That's cool.
Joel, what do you think about Words of Mouth?
Yeah, Words of Mouth. Man, this song is gorgeous. There's something about this one when I know it's one of those slow songs on the record, but I love the music. I love the melody. I love the lyrics. I love the change your life idea, because it feels when Lee sings these words, like they feel so real and grounded. Like I just feel like there's so much authenticity from him as a singer, as a songwriter, and I feel like that shines like really strongly on this song. And so it's simultaneously like real and grounded, but then just with his vocals, like it's like heavenly at the same time. I haven't said it yet, but Lee's, I think, one of my favorite singers that's out there in a band.
Yep.
And his voice is so different from like anything else that I hear in all the good ways. And I love it, and I love this song. I think it's gorgeous. Yeah.
Yes, beautiful song. Very, very beautiful song. This is probably at least in my top 5 songs on the album. Like, I love this song. I couldn't imagine this album without this song. It's a very short song. It's very kind of outlier, especially. Like, it doesn't... Because, like, Trophies kind of fits in well. Like, if you're listening to the songs, it makes sense that they're slowing down to a slower song and picking back up. Museums in Decline is a very fast-paced song, and then it goes slow with this.
Yeah.
But it still feels cohesive. And like you brought up, like the change your life line, I think overall, like that is one of the biggest themes on the album, is changing your life. And I think that continues to show, like, over those 10 years that they weren't making music,
Yeah.
that changing your life and becoming somebody new, and what made Trophies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed the like the slower. I also enjoyed it being like shorter, because what I noticed was like some of the songs were like clocking in, at like 4 minutes, or like, near 5 minutes or whatever. And I feel like that's it's kind of nice. It's like I've mentioned recently, I kind of missed the days where there was these like little like interludes and all, where you'd have like a little like minute long like little thing, like we on Huck Nelson, I think it was Recess, where it was just like a minute of like, it feels like you're at recess, because it's just a guitar doing whatever. And I feel like it's nice to kind of throw in these like shorter ones, that way you're not getting just constant like like 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 4 minutes.
Yeah.
I feel like it's cool, and like I said, I enjoyed the slowdown on it.
That's cool. All right. Track 9, Courage, Courage. Cameron, what do you think about this one?
This is my favorite song on the album.
Oh, I was waiting for it.
There is something about... Okay, let me just preface this. I am a sucker for a good emotional song.
Yeah.
And I think Lee's delivery on this song is so emotional. That set of lines in the third verse, where he says, "Oh Lee, raise up your mind, I'll show you the meaning." He says, "I know you did, and I remember it."
Yeah.
And his delivery there is just so good. I love the musicality of it. I love how everything builds together. Lyrics, again, are great. This is just my favorite song. But it sounds like it is not yours.
No, this is my favorite song on the record.
Okay, I was a little worried there. I love this song.
And what's funny is, until I was intentionally listening to the album this way, like track by track, I don't think I ever would have said this was my favorite song on the record. But man, I think this is a perfect song.
Yep.
I don't think anything wrong happens on this. The bass playing is so good. The guitar work is so good. I love the build. I love the like almost creepiness of it that builds to the emotions. And I'm an emo guy from way back, and so it just fits perfectly with my feelings about that. I also I haven't read Lee's thoughts on all these tracks and what's kind of behind them, but I feel like this maybe has to speak to like his ordination as a priest or something. But I wrote down as I was listening to it, best ? Like, is this the best song on the album? I think this is the best song on the album. Yeah, I think it's so good.
I think go ahead.
I was gonna say, I feel like with every album there is one rotten song that comes along, and it's not this one. But no, I thought it was interesting because like you have this like slower song, and then it like leads into like a slower song, and I think a lot of times you almost like slow down too much if you follow back. I think it's kind of like the I think it was like Family Force 5 that you were kind of like, there's no break. Like, why is it just like chaos, chaos, chaos? There is no kind of like break. And
Yeah.
I think that on the opposite side, it's like you can kind of make it screech to a halt. So like at first I was kind of like, okay, like I feel like there was enough like an investment built up. Like I had, at this point I had enough trust to be like, okay, like I'll see where it's going. And I think it's cool that you do have this like build up, like y'all were saying, is that, and I think that it actually works really well to have
Yeah.
this like slow. So it's like you do slow down the album, but then it's like it's like such a payoff like at the end, because you have like slowed down to like you're kind of like drawn into like, okay, what's he saying, where's it going, and then like it lifts up. And so I just thought that was, I thought that was really cool, because like I said, I think that a lot of times that's almost like a misstep
Yeah.
in doing that. So
Yeah, I just think it gets it right at every point. I love the moments where he holds out a word and the music fades. It's like there's this thing that happens where they're in the same sort of position together and the music fades away, but his voice fades into the forefront as he sings a word, and it's just great. And then as the song kicks in, it's perfect the way that it builds and gets to where it's going. So love that song.
Yeah, this song, like being sandwiched between two slow songs, is the perfect spot for it. Because, like you mentioned, it's words of mouth is very slow, and it just bleeds right into courage, courage. And then the song ends on this huge, almost chaotic him just repeating that I need courage, and the drums are going crazy, and there's all this guitar noise going on, and it just cuts out, and you hear that guitar kind of just fading off, and there's like this almost weird screech, and then it goes back into a slow song. And I wouldn't want the song anywhere else on the album. It is the perfect track placement for it.
It's interesting. You brought this up, Brandon, like songs bleeding into songs. I love an album that feels like a song. That it doesn't feel like there's a lot of like distinct breaks, but I'm listening to a whole movement of music. And it's something that classical music used to do a lot. And I think it's so cool to see it show up on an album, because it makes it like, today we're in a culture of singles and disjointed songs, and it drives me crazy, honestly, because I love sitting and listening to an album and something that feels cohesive. And this is probably getting into like final thoughts on the record, but I feel like this record is so cohesive together. Just moving well together. So
we move to our final track, The Gates of Paradise. Give praise where praise is due. Joel, so tell us a little bit more about the cohesiveness.
yeah. I love this track. I think when I first started listening to this album, this was my favorite song on the record. It does feel different than everything else on the album a little bit. And so, but I love the drums. I love the creativity of it. It's super simple, but everything is played really, really well and works really well together. I love the steadiness that are happening to the drums. It's a great contrast to the like erratic drums that show up throughout the album, and I think are proof just of Glenn's like drumming, that he can do any of it and pull it off really, really well. The lyrics I think are great. The like half-life is strange. There's constant decay. That it reminds me, we mentioned this earlier, we've been at our church going through 2 Timothy, Paul kind of looking back at his life and then looking forward to eternity. And I feel like that's what this song is. In a lot of ways, that like what I've been living is like this half-life that's strange, and there's constant decay to it. But there's something coming, and there's something ahead. The gates of paradise, and there's beauty coming. And so, but also the idea that's there, he talks about how there are others that won't believe, at least he thinks. So I think there's a lot going on lyrically that I really love about this song. And I love how it kind of ends. The record ends with the hope of that, but also just kind of the song ends a little bit like unsettled. And I think that that's such a beautiful ending to an album like this. So
Yeah, you stole like all my thoughts on this song. Like I was really gonna say this ends the album on a very hopeful note, but it does. It's a very just it's cool going from the chaos of courage
yeah,
into this song that's very hopeful and major key and uplifting and I love like this is a long song. It's 8 minutes long.
it is. Yeah,
And you think like you're looking at the track list, you're like, man, this is a long song. It's the last song on the album. It's gonna be long. It doesn't feel like it's 8 minutes. It does a really good job of even though it's the same drum beat almost the entire song, it's this same like piano kind of thing going, and it feels very. It goes back to it feels intentional.
yeah,
The album needed to end on that really long song with that just same beat going the whole time. I really love where he says the piano won't play and then the harmonium won't play and you hear the piano and the harmonium. I love that.
Yeah.
I love little details like that. I
too,
think that's
yeah.
really cool. But this song also has probably my favorite line on the album. It says, "'Cause unbelievers are strange. I loved a few. I remember their names. And you still think if they just had a taste, but they won't, I think." There's just something about his delivery and how the line comes out. It's so good.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's bold to have like an 8-minute song, and I think like it's I thought a lot about where would I have moved it? Like, is it you have this like bam 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 at the beginning, and at the end you have this like slow fast, then like slow, and it's like would I have changed like. Like where would I moved it to? And kind of like stealing something like or building off of what you said was like the album is so cohesive that I'm like I wouldn't have moved this. Like there is no and I know like we've joked around in the past that usually if an album ends on like a lower note, you're like, I know Brandon's not gonna be a fan of this, but like I think the album works, and I think even like at a show, like I wouldn't find myself thinking, I wish he would have, or I wonder why he didn't end on this one. Because I mean, I think too, like it would have been weird to have an 8-minute song, then jump into Courage. Because I feel like it doesn't, work as much. But yeah, I think that it was just like, it felt so simple. And kind of going back to, I think it was Trophies, is that like, I put down like, it feels like a jam session and it's so simple. And I think that, when you say stuff or like, I mentioned Vipeste a lot. And that album, I tell people, I'm like, yeah, it sounds like a guy just one day was like, hey, let's record an album. And he just went to his living room and recorded. And I think that it can come across as, oh, so you don't think there's effort put into this? But I think like, sometimes that's the best thing is when it's simple. It's like you don't have to overdo it. You don't have to have like a orchestra behind it. You can have a powerful song with just an acoustic guitar or just someone singing, you know. And so I feel like it was a really cool way of ending, and it's not it goes back to I don't find myself wanting to skip it. Like I don't get to minute 3 and think, oh, okay, I know what you're doing here. I'm just going to say that this song was good and head out, because it's like, I want to see where it goes, because I don't know what's going to come at minute 7, in this track. And so I feel like it was a really cool way to kind of wrap up and end the album.
that's cool. All right, well, we did it track by track. We can talk a little bit about kind of our final thoughts and give our rating. And I can lead off on that. I said this a second ago. I think this album is really cohesive as a record that I wouldn't change any track order. I wouldn't, honestly, I don't think I would really change anything about it, which is really rare for me with an album. But I feel like it's one that does everything right. This is like luxury, I don't know, 3.0 or whatever, and stylistically, like at least, and they just nail it. It's wild to me that a band can Be really active and do well, and then take a break for 10 years and come together and make their best album after that. It's just not something that you see happening. And so I'm blown away by it. I love everything about it. I highly encourage people to go listen to it if you've never listened to it before. And so I have a hard time. I wrote down all my notes. Brandon, you know how I do this. I usually rate every song and then come back and average out a rating. And I'm like, I don't even know how to rate any of these songs because I love them all so much. I'm like, are they all a 5? Are they all a 5 to me? And I ended up giving one of them a 4.5, which averaged out to a 4.9. But honestly, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and give it 5 stars because I love it. And I feel like in the last 10 years, this is the new Christian album that's come out in the last 10 years that I've listened to more than any other record. And every time I listen to it, I just love it. And so this is my first 5 stars on the podcast.
I would have been annoyed if you would have given a 4.9. I would have been like, Joel, just give it a 5.
Oh, I love it.
I think that's really cool. I know that like when we mentioned the Gable Price, when I gave it a 5, I feel like I wrestled a lot because it is like this weird, like, I don't know, a 5 is, I feel like it's this rare atmosphere of like, I wouldn't change anything or this changed my life or whatever. And so I feel like that's cool. Cameron, how about you?
It's just such a good album. Joel's told about all my thoughts on it. So, I mentioned before we started recording was that I love a really good comeback album. A lot of my favorite albums are comeback albums. And to me, this is like the ideal comeback album. Like I mentioned before, it's very mature. It shows an artist that took some time off and came back, and they applied their life and what they've done and how they've changed and apply it to their music and their art, and it comes across so well. I think I mentioned before, I like to listen to other podcasts and read other reviews when going into something like this. I like to hear what other people have to say too. And there's a guy named Alan Parrish. He has a page called Turn Off the Radio. He's a really cool guy. He reviewed this album when it came out, and he said something in the sorts of, you see a lot of bands that are from the 1990s, had a short-lived career, they come back, and then they put out a new album after, 10, 20 years, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But you still want to listen to their old stuff more. This album is not like that. Like, Luxury is absolutely an exception. I will go to Trophies before I will any of their other stuff any day. Not that it's bad. It's great. But Trophies does such a good job of, like, capturing the maturing of a band. And I think all their releases do that. From their first album to latest and greatest. Like, there's a maturing there, lyrically especially. Then from there to self-titled, there's more maturing. But Trophies really just showcases what it meant to grow up and be more mature with your music.
Yeah.
So what would you give it as a rating?
I have to give it 5 stars. I love this. It's my second favorite album all the time. I can't not give it 5 stars.
I love it. This is the first ever 2 5-star ratings on the podcast. So Brandon, we're ready for you to wreck it.
Yeah. No, I feel like whenever like I'm giving something like lower than people, I have to be like, no, it is still good and all. But no, as I go into it, but I think that this album, it definitely like, I won't say like exceeded, because it's not like I question like Joel's like music taste, but I think whenever like Joel was telling me about like, man, this is like incredible. Like I think I saw where it was coming from, and I think that it's definitely a album that the more you listen to, the more like it grows. And I think that like it almost is like sad, because I almost want to give it a like a preemptive, like, well, here's where I am now, but here's where I'm going to be or whatever. And I mean, like, I think it checks the boxes of, I'll definitely like, after listening to this, I'll definitely be interested in like, hey, where else should I dive in? Should I keep going with newer stuff? Should I start from the beginning? and I think that like it's something to be said that the thing that an album suffers for is like when you're not like no, you don't know the band. I think that's always like it's almost like it's a good sign of like, you know, it's not that the lyrics were missing or whatever. So I feel like for me, like it lands at maybe like a 3.5, which I mean, I know that like compared to like two 5 stars, it seems like super low. But I think that like it's definitely a, you know, the more you dive into it and you get to know, because I think stuff like the years, like, you know, for me it was, oh, I wonder why he's mentioning the years, and then for you, you're like, oh no, this is what, you know, made that jump. And you know, I think it's a lot like 5 Iron Frenzy. Like I'm super excited for the next 5 Iron Frenzy album we do, because now like I go into it with, here's what I need to look for.
Yeah.
Not like I'm frustrated with this song. And but yeah, I think it was really cool, and I loved getting to like dive into like a band that's like made such an impact. And I think too, you know, at the beginning, like whenever Cameron was like, yeah, like, you know, I grew up in high school with this or whatever. Like, I was kind of thinking about how, like, when we've sat down before and I make a comment about, I was in high school, and you're like, okay, Brandon, like, that makes me feel old that was your high school. And, you know, I think it's so cool that you have a band and an album that, like, can make that impact. Like, it's not just, well, once you have kids in turn, you know, whatever, you'll appreciate it. Or, oh, if you're younger, you appreciate it. I think it's cool that you can have, like, this span of like, no, like you can sit down and appreciate this, like no matter like how old you are or like your life experience or whatever. And so I mean, yeah, I feel like I'm kind of jealous that you guys, I wish I would, because like Joel, when he mentioned there was a documentary about the band, I had told Joel, I was like, Joel, this might be unfair, but I feel like that's automatically you get an extra point. And so I feel like if I would have watched the documentary, you're probably looking at like a 4.5 album.
Oh, I agree.
So even like after this, like I'm excited to find some time, you know, this week to sit down and get to, you know, I joked earlier too that like I'll probably end up watching a documentary, then just re-record all of my stuff. So if you're listening to this, like
That's awesome. Brandon, I'm just excited to expose you to this band because they are just one that I love in this album too. And so it's fun to get to do that. And I'm really thankful, Cameron, for you, because I have this thing where I'm like, man, I don't want to cover all of my, like jump right into all my favorite albums, you know? And so it's like finding the right person to come on and like celebrate it with and give it its due. And when I saw it show up on your list of like 3 records that you would want to talk about, I'm like, I loved that this guy, like this is like one of the top 3 records that he would want to talk about. And so it's been so fun to talk about it with you too, and just get to celebrate all the goodness of it. And so, and I'll point out too, go check it out, go listen to it. You can still buy this record on vinyl, and you should buy it on vinyl. It's available from Luxury. Actually, all their albums are available on vinyl, and so don't miss out on that. And they've done a really good job with the vinyl releases for their records.
Yeah, they like to. It seems like they like to really keep up with their old releases. They have a lot of even their demo stuff on Bandcamp and stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's really, really, really great. So, man, this has been really cool. So let's kind of wrap up and talk about our lyric of the week.
It's time for the lyric of the It's time.
All right, well, the lyric of the week comes from the song Trophies. Take your time when you're working it out, in your head, on the bed, where you hardly move, in the afternoon. There's no way to undo what you did. There's no way to unlive what you lived. There's just consequence. There's always a glove that fits. I know I mentioned that earlier, but I love the writing. Lee's such a good writer. It's unbelievable. And so it was fun to get to dig into all that. All right, Cameron, anything that you would want to say to people about Tooth and Nail News or how they can connect with you?
Yeah, check me out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Cool stuff coming, hopefully. Just excited to keep seeing the page grow and see where it goes.
Yeah, we are too, man. It's been fun to get to watch it. And I'm thankful that I have a place that lets me know what John Van Dusen commented when I missed it. And so it's thanks for catching it for me and allowing me to know that he actually is probably going to put that record out on vinyl. It's great. It's great.
Yeah,
So.
he's thinking about us.
Yes, for sure. Well, of course, guys, you can find us on Hey, Are You Listening on Facebook, and we would love it if you subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, help us get the word out. We're just thankful that you join us and listen along, and we look forward to having you on again next week.
Hey, are you listening? This ain't